So as far as Garnishee Order is concerned, this is something which is important because of recovery of money from the bank by the customer or by an order of the court. So whenever I am allowing withdrawal from an account, the banker should check whether there is any such order that is there and whether any amount of money is blocked by these Garnishee orders, etc. So now let me just quickly explain what is the concept of this Garnishee order. Suppose Ajay gave 1 lakh to Babu. So then who is the creditor here? Because Ajay is giving money, Ajay is the creditor. Then who is Babu? The person who is receiving the money, he is the debtor. So now Babu has an obligation to repay the money to Ajay. So Babu did not repay, then automatically Ajay went to court for recovery. Then court issued an order in favor of Ajay to recover the money from Babu. So here the decree holder for recovering of money from Babu is Ajay. He is also called as judgment creditor. Then Babu is the person who is supposed to make payment in accordance with this decree. He is called as judgment debtor. So now Babu says he has no money, but Ajay subsequently comes to know that he has money in a bank. So the judgment debtor here is Babu, and Babu's banker is Canara Bank. So here Babu's Canara Bank will be judgment debtor's debtor. So Ajay will now apply to the court asking that Babu has money in Canara Bank account. So now take that money from Canara Bank's account and pay me because I hold a decree for recovery of money from Babu. So this kind of an order that is issued by the court against Canara Bank to pay the amount to Ajay from the account which is held in the name of Babu is what is called as a Garnishee order. So basically, two persons are there. One is the lender and the borrower. If the lender does not get the money, he will go to the court and the court issues a decree for recovering of money from the borrower. Now the borrower says, I don't have money. But subsequently, we get to know the lender who has the decree gets to know that he has money in some other account. So this person who is holding the decree and who has made the payment and who is supposed to recover will go to the court and say that this borrower who is supposed to pay me the money in accordance with the decree has another account in this particular bank. Now the court will issue an order to the bank saying that you take the money from the borrower's account and pay it to the decree holder or the person who has lent the money. This process is what is called as Garnishee order. So the moment someone says that there is balance in Canara Bank's account and goes to the court to issue an order, the court will initially give an order nisi. That is, which is the first step indicating a stop in the payment of the account of Babu. So this will be a conditional order. So the affected parties will be given an opportunity to show cause why the order should not be made absolute. So the moment it is made absolute, what will happen is the account will be frozen and whatever money is there, if it is sufficient to pay the decree, the money will be recovered will be paid by the bank to the decree holder. So that is what is going to happen. But before that, they have to be given an opportunity to indicate whether there is the nature of account is appropriate or not, etc. So on receipt of the order, the bank is supposed to stop the payment of the customer's account. Then it has to give an explanation as to why the order cannot be executed. So imagine that this borrower is thinking that he is having an account, but he may not have an account, or the account could be in the name of a joint account, or it could be his company's account. So, or it may not have any balance at all. It may be in the negative balance, etc. So what are those circumstances in relation to which the money cannot be paid and the order cannot be made final will be indicated either by the bank or the customer. And then the customer can also come out and he will be informing. So on receipt of all this information, the court will take a final decision whether to make the order absolute. So once the order is made absolute, the banker will be asked to pay the amount from Babu's account to Ajay. So here, the kinds of Garnishee order could be a limited Garnishee order where only a limited amount is attached. Suppose he has 1,000 rupees in his account and only 100 rupees is the amount that is supposed to be paid to Ajay. So it is not the 1,000 rupees that will be attached, but only 100 rupees that will be attached. In which case it will be a limited Garnishee order. Or it could be an ordinary Garnishee order where the entire balance with the bank is attached. So where should be the notice to the bank be served? Once you get the order NISI, that has to be served on the head office of the bank. So as to intimate all the branches so that they are able to check from their records whether the account is available, etc., and then do the needful or give the necessary explanation. Then the accounts and amounts attached are basically all accounts in customers' names, and funds in the bank's hands will be attached. Then after the set off of loans payable to the bank. So it is not that the fund that is available is made available for payment. If there are any other loans and other things that are payable to the bank, that will be set off, and then the money will be attached. Then only the balances on the date of the order will be attached. Then whatever subsequent receipts are received, they will not be attached, but they will be credited to a new account, and drawing in respect of those will be permitted. Then checks received subsequent to the order being issued. So now the account is on stop or account is frozen for activities. So then those checks will be returned with a, not that there is insufficient balance, but with a remark saying that you refer to the drawer. So they will find out why you are not in a position to make the payment. Then if payments are allowed from the customer's account after the Garnishee order is issued, then the bank has not acted in an appropriate manner. So in which case, the bank will be held liable for violation of the Garnishee order and then making the payment. So basically, what are the areas, what are the instances where the Garnishee order is not applicable is where the name or description of the customer's account is not appropriate or is inaccurate, then that will not be applicable. Then the money is held by the customer, but as a trustee or a joint account holder or in a firm's account as a partner, etc. Or if the money is of a company in the liquidator's account. So then that is not something which is easily available for making payment. Then second, if the bank does not owe any money to the customer, then also there is nothing that can be, blocked or made payment of. If the account is overdrawn, automatically you can't increase the amount of overdraft merely for payment of the Garnishee order. Only when there is balance can you make the payment. Excuse me, can I'll just pause for a moment and I'll join you. Okay. I have a call to take. Sorry. So the securities that are kept in safe custody are not something that can be accessed. Money that is held abroad also is not something that can be paid. And where there is no balance after set off against the debt from the customer, then also no money is available in the account for making the payment. Then amount received after the date of the check, or in case of bankruptcy of the account holder or winding up the account also, the Garnishee order cannot be made effective. So the sum and substance of it is only when there is money after setting off, and the money that is there on the date of the order, if it is there in the person's name in his capacity as an individual, only then that money can be blocked and the money can be used for payment. If none of these requirements are met, then the Garnishee order will not be effective or will not be in a position to provide the kind of purpose that it is supposed to serve. So this is as far as the Garnishee order is concerned. Then the next small item that is there is in relation to letter of credit. For those who are aware of the export and import and international trade, etc., letter of credit is something which is very, very important mechanism of providing security in dealing with between individuals, that is the exporter and importer. The trust that is there between the exporter and importer can be provided only with the intervention of the banks. Here on part of the customer who is exporting and on the behalf of the customer who is importing. And this document of credit, which is the letter of credit, is something which enables the smooth operation of the transaction, and the intermediation that is done by the bank is something which ensures payment to the exporter and receipt of documents by the importer. So it's very, very important as far as the international trade and payments is concerned. Then what is letter of credit? So while seeing the definition itself, we'll understand what are the various parties. I will also talk to you about the process. So first, an arrangement wherein a bank, which is an issuing bank, acting at the request of or on behalf of its customer. So the applicant who is going to give an application to the bank for having a letter of credit issued to him. The person who is making the application is called the applicant or opener, who is the importer, and the bank to whom he is going to make an application is called as an issuing bank. And what is it for the purpose of which LC is opened? If he undertakes to pay for goods and services to a third party. And who is the third party to whom he has to pay? He is the beneficiary of the letter of credit, who is basically the exporter. And what is the undertaking? By a given date, on the documents being presented in compliance with the conditions laid down, the issuing bank is going to make the payment to the third party. So the process of letter of credit will basically involve this entire process. So the first, the importer will go to make an application. First, he'll enter into a sale contract with the exporter. And based on this sale contract, he will go and file an application with the issuing bank, asking him to give a letter of credit. So now the letter of credit will be issued by the issuing bank to the exporter's bank, who is called as the advising bank. Then the advising bank will say that, yes, I have received a letter of credit from the importer's bank. So he will give the confirmation to the exporter. Now the exporter goes and ships the good to the importer. Then he presents the documents of import of the shipping to the advising bank. Now the advising bank transmits the documents to the issuing bank. Now the issuing bank, after receiving the money, will debit the account of the customer, and it will release the payment to the advising bank, which will in turn make the payment to the exporter. Then there will be a documents which will be released on recovering this money from the customer. The documents will be released to the importer. He will go to the shipyard or whatever, dock or something, and he will receive the goods. So this is as far as the transaction of how a letter of credit works. So here sometimes the advising bank will have, there are other banks also which could be involved in this process. So here there could be a confirming bank which adds guarantee to the letter of credit from the exporter's country. So this fellow may say that this is, you are talking about your bank, but I want a confirmation of drawing the LC from my country's bank, in which case the issuing bank will pick up a bank in the exporter's country and say that you give a confirmation. So once he gives a confirmation, the exporter will be satisfied about the genuineness of the bank and the party. Then nominated bank. So here the authorizing the issuing bank to receive or negotiate documents and pay amount to the exporter. So here this could be a bank that is located in another exporter's country, where they will be receiving and negotiating the documents, and they will be making the payment to the advising bank or to the exporter. So the nominated bank is an issuing bank party who will be receiving the document. Then finally, the money is supposed to be paid to the advising bank. So for that purpose, the bank where the issuing bank has an account in the exporter's country, that bank is what is called as a reimbursing bank. So he will make the payment of the amount to the advising bank and to the exporter, so that or the nominating bank, so that finally the payment is reached by the exporter and the advising bank releases the documents, and these documents are in turn released to the importer, so that he will be going and collecting the goods imported. So this is the process, and these are the parties that are involved in letter of credit. Hope the process is clear. Then what are the different types of letters of credit? So one is what is called as a revocable credit, letter of credit, and irrevocable letter of credit. So here, if a letter of credit can be cancelled or amended without notice or consent to the beneficiary, then that is called as a revocable credit. But in this revocable letter of credit, there is always a risk to the beneficiary, because he is not going to be kept in the loop if there is any change that is made in the terms of the letter of credit, or even if it is cancelled. So generally, revocable letters of credit are not generally issued or entertained in the trade. Mostly you have irrevocable letters of credit, where cancellation or any modification cannot be done without notice or consent of the beneficiary. Then second, confirmed letter of credit and unconfirmed letter of credit. So where there is a confirming bank which is involved in the exporter's country, who will be confirming the issue of letter of credit as a comfort to the beneficiary, then that kind of credit is what is letter of credit is called as a confirmed letter of credit. Where there is no such confirmation, it is called as an unconfirmed letter of credit. Then the letter of credit where the payment is supposed to be made immediately on production of the documents. By the documents, the payment is supposed to be made by the issuing bank. Then that kind of a letter of credit is what is called as a sight letter of credit. But where there is a particular period after which the payment is supposed to be made on production of documents, that is called as a usance letter of credit. And the period that is provided from the production to the payment is what is called as the usance period. And these terms of whether it has to be confirmed and other things are all parts of the terms and conditions of the letter of credit. Then suppose there are multiple transactions that are happening between the exporter and an importer. You have a letter of credit drawn and it will be kept revolving. So the first export and import transaction is there. So automatically you have the payment and other things happening and the import happening. Then the second export transaction. So the same letter of credit will be getting renewed periodically after each export and import transaction happening. So that kind of a letter of credit is what is called as a revolving letter of credit. Then transferable letter of credit. So here, if the beneficiary is not the person who is supplying, what can happen is the letter of credit is there, and on the receipt of letter of credit, this will be transferred to the person who is actually supplying the goods. Then that kind of a letter of credit which permits transfer by the beneficiary is what is called as a transferable letter of credit. Then there could be an instance where the fellow who is entering into the export transaction is merely doing a trade transaction, but he doesn't have the ability to supply. So he is now going to make another LC, which is a corresponding a reverse of that. So the moment I am having an LC between the exporter and importer, importer will in turn draw an LC, back-to-back LC, where he will deliver it to the supplier or the manufacturer. So the LC will be similar in terms and conditions except for the price, because there is a cut which the person will have to take. Then second, based on the price, the amount will differ, and the delivery date, the supplier or manufacturer is supposed to deliver it earlier to the exporter, and exporter in turn will have to supply. So the back-to-back LCs are entered into where the exporter is a different guy and actual supplier or manufacturer is different. And you want to maintain total secrecy in terms of the terms of export and the terms of supply from the manufacturer. So that kind of LCs that are entered into is what is called as back-to-back LC or a countervailing LC. Then there is another type of LC called as a red clause LC. So a letter of credit in which an advance payment to the beneficiary is incorporated before shipment. So where there is a pre-shipment credit for raw materials, that kind of an LC, the term is indicated in red on the LC saying that there is an advance payment that is supposed to be made to the beneficiary. That kind of an LC is called as a red clause LC. So sometimes in addition to the advance payment, insurance and warehousing charges are also paid in advance to the exporter. That kind of an LC which has these clauses, apart from advance payment for payment to insurance and warehousing, that LC is what is called as a green clause LC. Then deferred payment or acceptance LC. So here the payment will be made after the period indicated as per the terms, and the bill of payment will be accepted and payment is made on the due date. So here there is a payment which will be made in accordance with the time that is provided for in the letter of credit. Then sometimes standby credit is also used, where it is a kind of sort guarantee that is made for payment of the LC amount in spite of any issues of the applicant. So if the applicant is not able to pay, there will be an arrangement of standby credit where some other institution or even the bank itself will provide a guarantee saying that I will make the payment, notwithstanding the payment that is made by an applicant. So these are all the various types of letters of credit. So this is also one of the important areas of questions. So these are another two important 10 and 20 marks questions that are asked. One is in relation to guarantee and types of guarantee. Second is in relation to letters of credit and types, and a 5 mark or a 10 mark question which is asked in respect of Garnishee order. So